Epic Originals presents Nellie Nutgraf, the double best reporter in history, The Big Scoop. Written by Tom Angleberger. Illustrated by Gillian Reed. Performed by Ramon Diocampo. Warning. Welcome to the least educational series of all time. Nellie Nutgraf reports on the biggest stories in history, but it's a wacky version of history where everything is happening at once, including a lot of things that didn't happen. Of course, Queen Victoria didn't use a jetpack to feed sardines to the Loch Ness Monster, so don't put that on a history test or you'll flunk. Consider yourself warned. This story is told by Paul Bunyan about his friend Nellie Nutgraf. She wants to cross the Atlantic Ocean, see all the news in England for herself, and get it all on the front page of the Big City Big News. Will it be tough? Yes. Will it be dangerous? Yes. Will it be historically accurate? Never. Chapter 1. Hey, it's me, Paul Bunyan. Remember, the giant who has a giant beard, a giant axe, a giant ox, and a giant plaid shirt? Actually, my plaid shirt is in the wash today, which is why I'm just sitting here in my giant Big Apple t-shirt. But enough about me. I got to get busy telling you about the time Nellie Nutgraf went over to England. I've told you before about how Nellie is the double best reporter in the history of America, right? She's the one who wrote the first stories about Davy Crockett, Molly Hatchet, Annie Oakley, Fats Waller, Linda, better known as Bigfoot, Hubert Humphrey's horse, and me, Paul Bunyan. Well, she's also the triple best reporter in the history of England. She's the only person ever to interview Sherlock Holmes, the Queen, and the Loch Ness Monster on the same day. Don't believe me? You will after you read this book. You know, it's always hard for me to write these books. I'm too big to use a typewriter like Nellie does. I tried it once, but I squashed the typewriter flat when I pressed the very first letter. So, this time, I hired a family of beavers. I'll tell the story out loud to them, and then they'll chew the words into logs. Or, actually, they'll chew logs into words. I sure hope they know how to spell. Chapter 2. One day, Nellie Nutgraf gopped a phone call. Okay, hold up. Give me a little time to teach the beavers how to spell, and I'll get right back to the story. "5 years later. Okay, let's try this again. Ready, beavers? I'm so proud of you. Chapter 2. One day, Nellie Nutgraf got a phone call. She picked up the phone and said,
"I'm sorry, phones haven't been invented yet. Please send me a letter."
Just then, the mail arrived. "There's a letter here for you, Nellie," said her editor, Brian the editor.
"Thanks,"
said Nellie, and she ran across the Big City Big News newsroom to get it. "Hey, watch out!" complained the other reporter, Hot Shot Terbletsky. "You almost knocked over my coffee!" Nellie ripped open the letter, read it, and then began a jumping and a hollering. "Now you did knock over my coffee!" cried Hot Shot Terbletsky. "What are you so excited?" "About?" asked Brian the editor. "I sure hope it's a big story."
"It's huge!"
shouted Nellie.
"Sherlock Holmes agreed to an interview."
"That would be a real scoop," said Brian the editor. "No one has ever gotten an interview with Sherlock Holmes before." "Wait," said Hot Shot Terbletsky. "I thought Sherlock Holmes was a fictional character."
"Yes, but so are you,"
said Nellie. "Oh," said Hot Shot Terbletsky. "Now, you all know what a fictional character is, right? That's a character that somebody just made up out of their imagination, like Bobo the Dancing Unicorn. Bobo's not real, he's fictional. He's also got bad breath, and I sure wish that was fictional. He really needs a real toothbrush. Anyway, Sherlock Holmes isn't real, but he lives in a real place. 221B Baker Street, London, England, which is on the other side of the ocean from where Nellie was right then.
"So, can I have some money to buy a ticket on a big boat so I can get to England?"
"Nope," said Brian the editor.
"This is an outrage!"
yelled Nellie. "Sorry," said Brian the editor. "But Hot Shot Terbletsky just spent all the money on a second cup of coffee."
"What?"
"Hey," said Hot Shot Terbletsky. "Mocha Cocoa Grande Espresso Bacon Lattes with extra whipped cream aren't cheap."
"That is really an outrage,"
shouted Nellie.
"I'm going out to get a big scoop that will make the newspaper a lot of money. Instead of wasting that money on coffee, you should use it to send me to get more scoops."
"Okay," said Brian the editor.
"So you'll pay for this trip?"
asked Nellie. "No," said Brian the editor. "But if this trip gets you a big scoop, I will pay for the next trip."
"This is an outrage,"
cried Nellie.
"But I'll go anyway, just to prove my point."
And she grabbed her notebook, her camera, her typewriter, some beef jerky, and a life preserver, and ran out of the office. "She knocked over my coffee again," whined Hot Shot Terbletsky. Chapter 3. Once she was outside, Nellie realized that she didn't know how to prove her point.
"To get money for the next scoop,"
she grumbled,
"I need to get this scoop, but I can't get across the ocean to get the scoop." "Without any money, which I won't get until the next scoop, and, hey, what smells so good?"
"That's my peanut mobile," said George Washington Carver, who was driving by in his peanut-mobile.
What's a peanut-mobile?
Asked Nellie.
Well,
said George Washington Carver, stopping the peanut-mobile, it's a car that runs on fuel made from leftover peanut shells.
That seems like a pretty good idea,
said Nellie.
And it smells great, too.
Thank you, said George Washington Carver. I have a lot of ideas about things to do with peanuts.
Any chance you've made a peanut-powered boat? I need to get to England cheap.
I'm afraid not, said George Washington Carver. But I do know how you can get to England cheap. My friend Amelia Earhart is about to fly her new plane across the ocean.
Maybe she'll...
give you a free ride.
The plane isn't peanut-powered, is it?
Asked Nellie, a little worried about running out of peanut shells halfway. Nope, it's a regular gas-powered plane. Hop in the peanut-mobile and I'll give you a lift to the airport.
Thanks,
said Nellie, hopping in.
On the way, can I ask you some questions and take your photo for the Big City Big News?
Sure, said George Washington Carver. Just let me put on my hat.
Peanut scientist gets first peanut-powered parking ticket.
George Washington Carver,
a well-known scientist who has found many uses for both peanuts and sweet potatoes, parked in the wrong spot while dropping off a reporter at the airport and was given a parking ticket by Traffic Cop Lieutenant Rita Lovely.
I don't care how good his car smells, said Lovely. He parked it on top of Babe Ruth's big toe.
Oh, said Ruth.
This gives me a great idea for making bandages out of peanuts, said Carver. Extra, extra. Nellie is always on the lookout for a big scoop, just like any good reporter. Reporters investigate different topics to learn about interesting stories. Using the facts they've gathered, they inform people of important news. You can learn more about reporting by reading Mainstream News, Global Citizens, Modern Media by Will Mara on Epic. In real life, George Washington Carver was a scientist who discovered over 300 uses for peanuts. He also taught farmers all about plants that would keep the soil healthy. There are several books on Epic where you can learn more about Carver and his many peanut inventions. Will Nellie make it to London? Find out in The Big Scoop, Book 8. Available now.